pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, we will call to order the December 7th, 2023 board meeting. Number 3, roll call shows trustees present. Jim, I just saw a card phone. Jim is excused at this point. Officials and staff are present. So for agenda changes, we will move I and J before C. 5, consent agenda. A, November 16th, 2023, regular board meeting minutes. B, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. If there are no questions, I would need a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept consent agenda.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. 6, we will open the public hearing. A, 2024 budget presentation.
The budget is in the packet along with kind of a summary of the key points between this year and last year. Not much of that has changed. There's only, since the preliminary budget was presented, there's just a few things that were updated when it comes to the project in Alana Park that we got a donation for was one thing that was increased. But other than that, generally the mill rate, the total mill rate is only going to increase slightly to about 18.16 per thousand. That's across the municipality, the Blackwater Lake District, Hortonville School District, and FBTC. So generally what that means is if your house is assessed at $400,000 or more, your taxes might slightly increase. Anything lower than that, your taxes should be decreasing. Is there any questions with the budget as presented?
Does anyone have questions?
I just wanted to ask about park fees, Nathan. You said it's paid for by park fees, so,
So basically, right now, anytime a developer develops housing, they have to pay a certain amount per parcel that they create as park fees. We have to expense those within 5 years, or we have to pay them back. So we're expensing them this next year in order to satisfy that requirement. So,
okay.
and most of them are being utilized for park planning purposes for potential development in the future of those each park.
Okay. Thank you.
The property and liability insurance, do you think that's going to change a lot?
So partially a little bit increased. Let's see here. This last year, part of the reason it was a lot higher was due to an audit of the workers' comp numbers that were submitted in prior years. They were allocated to the wrong funds. So then they basically did that correction that would, so we owed them some money. And basically that's why this year's is higher. This next year it should be a little higher, so that's why we added 3,000 to the line. But it's probably gonna be around there, maybe a little more.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Go through the whole thing. We did it regularly.
He kind of did a summary. Did you get to read it?
I did,
Did you have questions on something?
on some of the specifics on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know, I apologize for being late here, but I don't know if we covered some of this, but like the Gold Cross, up 1,212%, is that a typo somewhere? The Gold Cross subsidy fee went from 1,148 to $15,054.
What page you want?
They're not numbered.
Oh, there's some.
On expenditures, are you talking?
Expenditure detail, yeah.
One second.
Yeah. The 2023 was 1,148, 2024 is $15,054.
Well, the subsidy fee here shows 42,000 last year, and it's 44,000 this next year.
Okay, but in the detail,
Their
it goes,
FICA.
yeah, that's what I was just saying, is there a typo in FICA there?
Oh, under the building inspector portion.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, sorry, billing inspector, Gold Cross subsidy fee, billing inspector, yeah. 15, from 1,100 to 15,000?
Yeah, something's out there. I'd have to look at it, but
Okay.
it's definitely something's odd. It shouldn't be that. The FICA is based off of a percentage of the payroll, so.
Yeah, that's why,
yeah.
it seemed like it was
Yep,
something.
that's an error.
Okay, and then we have, in the street maintenance, we have a 32% increase for, what was the expense that went up? Just in payroll, we have a 32% increase?
Yeah, that's
Right.
basically how it's basically in the past, we allocated it, we were trying to kind of split it out more.
Okay,
Basically, there was a good jump in payroll, but most of it should be the fact that there's nothing in snow control.
okay, yeah, I saw that,
Yeah,
I assumed that there was probably a reason that
Lumped
you
them.
moved some stuff around, but it just, the number just jumped out at me.
yep,
And then, okay, so we have some project coming up for $16,000 for the professional services for sidewalks?
4,000 to Dewey Street.
that's, yeah, some of it's,
what it is?
Dewey Street one.
Okay,
Some of it is gonna be our goal to kind of address the issues that we know are probably around, on our sidewalks.
okay,
They're not, basically, the idea is to do a certain amount of footage per year,
Okay.
and then, until we're kind of caught up and our sidewalks aren't out of compliance.
okay, I just went from 0 to
Right.
16,000.
Yep,
And then, we still have more professional services for Miller Park? What are we still doing over there for next year?
for Miller Park,
Yeah.
most likely that would be, just a concept plan for the second phase.
Okay. Okay. Um, I think there was probably one or two.
And then the rec department,
Hmm?
it looks like they jumped up. You kind of explained that in here, the rec department?
Yeah, part of it is just,
Cost more than it did last year.
it's, yeah, the price is probably gonna never be at that 17 anymore for payroll. It was hard enough for them to get personnel, so they had given people larger raises, I think. They were still like, I would have to pull the numbers directly, but it was still low, but compared to most places, but, yeah, so the idea was to keep that at that rate. I think, Siri was gonna kind of discuss with you guys at some point, the fees, the rate fees. if you guys would want to increase them, otherwise, some other things that we could do to offset on the revenue side.
So we'll be doing the payroll resolution at the next meeting, correct? For
Yeah,
everyone?
typically, but the rec program is usually kind of like not, the director's in there, but then there's like a range for the rec program
Mhm.
typically. So,
In the revenues fund for the TIF 4 stuff, the developer incentive at 17,976, is that cottages?
Yep.
So how long do we have to pay them for that?
well, we could pay it off, but we'd rather pay them a little increment each year so that
Yeah.
we have ways to kind of get them to do things that we want them to do.
Okay,
But the total, I think, is around 360 was the incentive,
okay,
and we expanded that out through the life of the TID,
okay.
so.
I just was confirming what I thought it was cottages, just
Yeah.
to make sure. And then I didn't understand, if you go down to Public Works and you have the capital project reviews, so there's the Main Street engineering, the street projects, and then the alley number 2 project downtown. And you highlighted it for the 2023 approved budget. I just put a big circle with a question mark around there because the 2023 year-end estimates are nowhere near the approved budget. And then looks like we pushed stuff into next year, but I just wanted to get some clarification as to.
So the
what
alley
that
2
is.
thing, yeah, because we didn't expense anything in alley 2 this year. They're highlighted because they should be amended. Basically, they'll be part of our amended amounts, when we go through in January and do the budget amendments, to reduce those amounts down to the actual expenditure, which was 0 for
Yeah.
the alley 2 project, but, the street project is lower too.
Okay.
So it basically gets carried into that is in that next year's budget line, is
Okay.
that alteration of that current year amount, so.
Okay. The only other question, and this is probably just a clarification, is in the payroll where it says administrator, so I'm assuming it's yours, right? And Aaron's as well. I saw those are split up between different sections on here because the one line on here is not your salary, so. The first one that I saw,
So my salary is split between 50% village, 25% water, 20% water, 20% sewer, 10% TIDS.
yeah, and it says that
Right.
at the top, but then it has the amount at like 45,000, and that's, so I'm assuming that is just one of those percentages somewhere?
That's the 45%,
That's-
that's the 50%.
That's the 50, okay. Okay, I just wanted clarification. That's what it
Yep.
was.
But
All
the
right.
other percentages are buried within those line
Other
items.
Yeah, the other ones
Yeah.
are,
The other line.
Yeah, the other one, like, the TIDS are split based on the percentage amounts. The water sewer one you can see at the next, board meeting when we do the water sewer budget.
that was all I had. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. 7, pre-registered citizens to be heard.
There are none.
Okay. 8, committee reports, library board. Pat?
We met last Thursday, the 28th, I believe it was, of November, last Tuesday, I'm sorry. We approved closing dates for 2024 and worked it to coincide with the village offices, especially for 4th of July. Ally gave her monthly report. Our subcommittee met today and also last week regarding the strategic plan. And our next meeting is December 19th.
Any questions for Pat? Okay. Move to 9, unfinished business from previous meetings. There's none. 10, new business. Oh, you know what? Okay. Okay, we go to A, discussion and possible action on resolution R-23-23, adopting 2024 budget. If there are no questions, we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve R-23-23, approving the 2024 budget.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on request for extension on developers agreement for 217 West Main Street.
This was for the Pocket Park. We have a developer's agreement with them that they were supposed to have a, basically a building design, plan started by now with a reputable builder to construct improvements, by the end of December 31st, 2023. At this point, they don't have anything in stone yet, because of pricing, and they are requesting an extension. The lot was initially sold to them for $11,300, and the improvement basically, which is what they're asking an extension on, if they built it, they would get $7,300 back if they built in the timeline currently.
So the building was due by then, or just the plan by the end of the
The
year?
plan, the building was, the improvements were supposed to have been done by December 31st, 2024.
And a plan by this year.
Right.
So I read the letter. Should they anticipate additional expenses because of the construction downtown? I mean, that seems to be the basic premise here, is that there's two points of the letter. One is that costs are high, and because you guys are gonna rip up downtown, we don't know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna cost us more money, and we're gonna have to redo things because you're redoing the downtown. So is that a realistic,
There might be a
claim?
special assessment associated with Main Street reconstruction. We don't.
But no
But-
redo of work.
But they're,
Right.
they wouldn't incur additional expenses from having to redo things or redesign things because of the way that because of some potential change we might make to the downtown district?
I don't believe so. The water and sewer lines are already ran into that area. I don't believe we would change anything with regards to that, because most of that stuff's in the alleyway anyway. Stormwater is the only thing that's kind of out front. I think the main thing is, I think they have a lot of properties downtown now, that they have purchased. I don't know, with the costs too on top of it, I think it's just a lot for them at once, in my opinion. I don't know, I wouldn't, I don't know if I would say that I think it'll ever happen at this point, in the near future.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I think if they're that far off on where they can build on their building right now, I don't see it getting drastically better in the next year.
Okay, so, and they already purchased it, correct?
Correct.
At the price. So the only question is whether or not we would be providing them an extension on,
Right, I mean, it kind of doesn't hurt, because it only incentivizes, if that $7,300 incentivizes them to build, great. If not,
It doesn't cost us anything to do the extension. It's
Right.
just that it's an empty piece of property.
I mean,
although-
I would rather encourage them to build, but if you take it away, if that's a incentive that's no longer there, they might not think it is urgent, but,
Yeah, there's nothing holding them to. do
well,
like-
right, there's no way to reclaim our property or anything like that. So, I mean, I don't know, it's just,
what were they asking for?
1 year or 2 years.
They're asking for a 2-year? that right?
2026.
Mhm.
I
When
would-
is the downtown anticipated to be
I would be more inclined to do.
26? So this would align with that, probably?
Somewhat.
If we give them a 24-month extension, I mean, originally it was 24, the end of 24,
End of 24 to be built, yes.
so then theirs
Yep.
would be 2026.
Right.
Which aligns with Main Street's construction.
Yeah,
Well,
But if we don't think that there's any impact,
yeah, extending it, I mean, extending it out for a longer period of time doesn't provide any incentive to get it done either.
True. Well, I mean, it's
I understand
it's
what you're
generally a
saying.
small
Yes.
amount.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how much it's really gonna
Yeah.
drive them and say, we need
When did we sell that?
2022. But also between now and then, a lot could change too with maybe what their plans are.
2022.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I would be inclined to suggest that we do like a 1-year extension and then potentially maybe have to revisit it in another year if they ask for another one, if something changes. I mean, because they're basing everything right here off of current building costs and things like that. I mean, my gut, my knee-jerk reaction is to say no, because look, you just bought the building right next to you. You obviously could have afforded to do this, right? But that's not the way that business works, but that's my knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
And I don't want to go that way, but I still think we should be accommodating.
Right. I think it's the only, with those properties, it comes renters. So it's a little easier for them to take it, purchase them, take out a loan, the renter pays for their mortgage. So
Oh, I understand.
With this, there's not, and but I think a 1 year is, I think that's a decent idea.
I mean, if
I
the
think there's enough.
economic climate changes, that gives us the opportunity to revisit it and say, well, things, they're not in the same situation they were.
Well, and I have to imagine that they're planning, now they bought the building next door, how to do the whole thing, right? You'd think that that would be part of the plan. So extending it 1 year for the plan and built by 2026, or?
I think it would be just
Well, currently they have a deadline of the end of this year for the plan and the end of next year for build, right? So that would extend it to the end of next year for the plan and 2025, for the end of 2025 for a
Just
build.
want to clarify.
And I'm sure that, purchasing the building with Stroh's is gonna impact what their plan is gonna be, and they're gonna have to revisit it anyway, even if they weren't, even if it wasn't for the economic stuff, because they made that move.
Right.
I can understand that they would change their plans.
any other questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion.
I just want to understand better. The 2-year extension that they're asking for would ensure that they get some of that deposit, but they would get some of their initial purchase back
if they completed it.
if they completed it.
Yeah, so they only get anything back if they complete it. So, right now, they wouldn't get anything back. If we just let it lapse, they would never potentially get that 7,300 back.
And they may or may not build on it. Or-
Right.
Yeah.
But giving them an extension, they still could if they built along that timeline. If you did a 1-year extension, if it was built by 25, then we would be on the hook to give them that 7,300 back.
Yeah.
But we earn, basically the TID would pay for whatever development that is put in there to reimburse us on the back end, so we wouldn't really lose anything.
I mean,
Giving them a 1-year extension gives them 2 years to build still.
I mean, it sounds like their plate is full, and if they asked for 2 years, then I would trust that maybe that's what they want.
Well, that is what they want, but that's, the idea behind the incentive is to incentivize them to build, right? And so we've run into this with other properties that we've dealt with where it just keeps getting drug out, where there's no building that ever occurs.
Well,
So,
they're gonna own it no matter what.
yeah, it's just a matter of
I
whether
just-
we're incentivizing
for
them.
their
or
mental
not.
space, with their plate being full, if they're making this request and then it goes through for them, like, yes, we're granting you that 2-year extension. I mean, that's a little win for them, and having a small business. Those little wins mean a lot. Maybe it's unlikely that they build anything, but if it doesn't cost us anything to give them the 2-year extension, then I would just give it to them.
But going with that, is there anything preventing them from coming next year and just asking for another year?
No, and you could always do that, and we would do an addendum, which would come back to you guys at the next meeting, so you guys could see
I'm
the
just
language.
advocating to take a little bit of pressure off of them.
Well, I think, looking at giving them 2 years, Grace, it's not like you have to build by next week. They're saying, instead, we gave them 2 years to begin with, and now they're asking for 2 more, and we're saying, okay, instead of 2 more, we'll give you 1, we'll extend it by 1 more. So they waited 1 year, and then they said, okay, we're not gonna make our first deadline, so.
Can we, and I don't know if we can or not, but is there any way to change it so that we say, okay, we extend it for 12 months, you get the full 73, 2 years, you get 50% of that, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you
I like
guys
that.
could do
I
that.
mean,
But then it
maybe,
incentivizes them
yeah,
to-
incentivize
They're gonna
them
lose
either
money the
way,
longer
2
they
years.
wait.
The longer they take,
And that's the purpose of an
I mean, it
incentive.
still gives them incentive, it gives them a buffer, but either way,
I'm just checking out what their request was, and if we can just give that to them, it might feel just very straightforward. The odds of them building, I could see it not happening, so I don't know if this will even ever come full circle. I'm just suggesting give them that freedom.
well, I think that they've changed their plans a few times based on the first meeting we had with them. Didn't they have one set of plans with building behind and whatnot, and then and I remember a conversation about people think it's one building, but there's really a wall or something like that between the two, and then it went.
I'm their neighbor.
I know,
live in the building.
I'm aware. I was also here for the meeting though, so I get it. But I feel like I understand with them buying Stroh's now that there's obviously going to be a change in maybe design or what have you. So I think giving them the 1-year extension and with a full 7,300 and maybe adjusting with the 50% if giving in 24 months might still incentivize them, but I don't know. It's just a thought.
What is the downside to giving them the 2 years, which is what they asked for?
'Cause the longer it takes to develop that, the less tax that we get on that property.
They're just 2 people. I mean, things take time.
I get it.
Speaking from experience.
That's why it's called an incentive, is to incentivize them to do it, so that way it gets them a tax roll.
Nathan, do you have any knowledge of the scope of their plan now that they've purchased the additional building? Is the scope changed that, so
Not
even,
really.
like you can go
That
ahead and
other
get all these
building-
quotes, but
The other building is gonna be used more for some of the
That's-
photography and some potential other stuff that they've been working on. I don't really wanna say without.
And based on
But-
some of the feedback we're getting from the public stuff from MSA and that sort of thing, just kind of listening to that and that whole aesthetic of downtown, I'm just wondering if their scope possibly has changed or there's maybe something else in the future. Like giving them that little bit of extra time would help, because MSA is doing that whole comp plan. We all looked at pictures of potential downtowns and
I don't know how much it would really change. I think based on what their intended goal of the space to be, which would be a partial workshop for cars, for vehicles to be
detailed, yeah,
detailed,
Vinyl.
yep. Some of it might change, but you could always do it just a year extension. I know it'd be nice to give them the 2 years, but one of the nice things about having it year to year is that it keeps it on our radar as well, because that's kind of what's happened in the past. With larger subdivisions,
we delay
where
it and then we
gave
forget about it.
24
Yeah.
months, and then we have staff.
It's 5
come
years
out.
later, and you
Yeah.
remember it's out there and it's
Right.
3 years past due.
I mean, I agree with Grace. I think that you know, you wanna work with business, we're not telling them I mean, yeah, the agreement is this, there's nothing stopping them from coming a year from now and
Well,
doing
and you
this.
could write that in the addendum that you guys could always, that you guys can approach with another request out if an extension might be needed.
Don't they have that building for lease?
Which one?
The one they're in right now?
No.
What building's for lease downtown?
Well, not that I know of.
Which one was the one that the
Though,
DOT?
well, the
Across the street.
one that might be for lease is the old red, white, and blue building.
Yeah.
The one the DOT
Yeah.
was using?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we there?
Yeah, they
So they don't
also,
own that.
they do. They own that, they own the Pocket Park, and then they own Stroh's, and then
Right.
that
That whole
old-
section,
Yeah. so-
Right.
all the
Right.
way from
So they have
Stroh's
the
to the
one-
Pocket Park.
The red, white, and blue one they have for lease.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great now, though.
Oh,
But
well,
what was in there before was the DOT, correct? That was like their satellite office
Yeah,
or
I
something?
think they were for a little bit, I don't know.
So it was a temporary lease,
Right.
They moved over across the street.
so it's not like they were occupying the space and now they're vacating it, it's that it was,
Right.
it was a different tenant.
Right.
you would need a motion one way or the other, for 1 year or for the 2 year.
I guess maybe legal counsel, I mean, if we addendum this and we open it up and say it's for a year, but if, you know, approach us again next year, you know, and we can revisit this, it just an
Yeah.
appropriate way of wording that it's a little bit softer, it's not,
Yeah, you don't necessarily even have to put that other language in, and you could revisit it again. I mean, you can always add another addendum as long as both parties agree, right? So the addendum would essentially be this deadline is extended for a year, and that is the new deadline unless further amended by the parties. And so that simple leaves open the door to do it again if you wanted to.
We'd bring the addendum back anyway, so I could, if everyone's agreed upon that language, we'd bring it back at the next meeting for approval. Or if there's a different type of language that you guys want, or different parameters. You can do a motion to direct us to do something.
We've gotta go somewhere here.
I'll make a motion to direct staff to draft an amendment to extend the current agreement and the deadlines by 1 year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then we will move I, discussion and possible action on CSM split parcel 240-0234-00.
So this is a lot that was basically bisected by County Road MM when the bypass kind of was put in. The state and the county moved MM. So Old Crest Street has been abandoned to a private road, but it bisected this single parcel, which was for sale, and now it's been sold through auction, and the idea is to do the CSM, splitting the top area into 2 lots and the bottom area as its own lot.
Are they buildable?
Yeah.
They're large enough to be able to put something?
Yeah, I mean, the top, so it's currently, they're currently all zoned agriculture. I mean, I would expect there would be room on there to build. I don't know for sure, I don't know it's not wetlands, but I don't know what the ledge rock looks like over there, but I'm sure they would be able to build. It's most likely the top 2 are gonna be farmhouses, because they're on over 5 acres. And then lot 3 is
7.3.
yeah, and that one is, that one's next on the agenda to be rezoned for light industrial for storage units.
This was at planning and zoning, right?
It was
Yes.
planning and zoning.
Okay,
And,
any feeling coming out of there, any?
There were questions from some of the neighbors regarding light industrial, like what could all fit into light industrial. And the individuals that purchased the property answered some questions about storage units and how they would possibly aim the garage doors so that the light wouldn't infringe on people's, like shine in people's backyards. And maybe Nathan, you can elaborate more on this. But there were questions, and it, the planning and zoning did make the recommendation to come back to the board, but there were neighbors at that meeting. Were there more questions after the meeting from neighbors?
Not from neighbors, I clarified with a few. One of the other things that came up was they were worried about having really large fencing with barbed wire and to make it look like a prison yard, and basically I said that's not, I checked, it's in our ordinance, they can't have barbed wire on there.
That's
But
good.
the
That's
developers
good.
also said they would be willing to kind of do something they're not gonna do something that makes it look like a prison yard. They're here if you.
Landscaping was another.
We should wait on
yeah,
the second.
the second part, but I mean, so that,
But
but to split them, that's needed in order for the second part, so.
right, yeah. I mean, there was no real reason not to split the properties.
There's a road.
Yeah.
Right.
Was there a reason for the split between lot one and lot two the way that it is? Did they detail that at all?
My guess is it has to do with natural barrier currently. I don't.
Yeah, there's a, what there is there's a, used to be a cow path, like a cow,
They walk
Run.
around the bottom,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then, so it's wooded. So it's like a wooded space.
Okay.
So they just split it.
Where the tree line is.
It was kind of a
Yeah.
natural split because of,
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at like a satellite map of it, there's
I'll
like
pull it
this,
up.
yeah. Made a lot more sense when you pulled that up.
and the other reason is, we needed to get over 5 acres to stay agricultural.
Yeah, okay.
Got to be over 5 acres according to land. So that lot line runs to the west of that wooded area. That's why it's on an angle.
So all of the wooded areas in lot two then?
Yeah. Lot one, lot two.
Yeah, lot one is on the west side and
Lot two, yep.
Okay. So it still makes it buildable, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it's still-
That's the smaller lot. It's
3 acres.
5.7.
Yeah. What's it? Got two.
I was just curious, it's making a.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the CSM split parcel 240-0234-00.
I will second that.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll go to J, discussion and possible action on Z-2-2023, rezone lot 3 of parcel 240-023400 from agricultural to light industrial.
This would rezone lot 3 that we just agreed to CSM to a light industrial for the use of storage units.
I have a question for you. Do you have other storage units in other communities?
Two.
Okay, and you've never had any problems or anything with complaints or anything on your storage units?
I think the ones that have complaints either don't have fencing or don't have security cameras. So those are the two big things I think that deter having any issues at places, is having a gated facility that requires an access code for people to be able to enter, as well as then having security cameras there. Just the natural presence of security cameras has allowed us to, basically prevented stuff from happening.
Okay, thank
That's,
you.
yeah, that's a residence, right? That's 233, right?
Yep, that's the seller of the lots,
The
I
what?
believe, correct?
Yeah, that's Mark Breitrick.
Okay.
He's a personal representative for the Wayne Breitrick estate. That's what this is, Wayne Breitrick estate. And he said, Jerry, I'd rather have the storage units there than a house.
Yeah.
He says they just,
So which areas would be of concern for, light, we'll call it light pollution? You know,
The houses here.
We're talking like the ones across here? Or those-
I really don't know, because these, from my understanding, are kind of on the other side of a hill.
Yeah, they're all set back, aren't
They're
they?
set back, yeah.
So, I mean, the only ones that might have any type of light pollution, but it wouldn't necessarily, I mean, you would have to have.
The new
aimed-
lots?
Right, I mean,
They're the problem?
even them though, I mean, the
Yeah.
way that they make lights nowadays, most of them don't go, yeah, they aim them down, it's not like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not
Not
lit up
spotlight like a-
right, like a stadium anymore, like.
Are you taking that into account when you're designing your lighting for these?
Yeah, and, you know, when we did this rough layout, we didn't, I guess that wasn't part of the discussion, was the light. So we, you know, for the neighbors across the road, we could always put a building, you know, east-west along the setback, so that, you know, you don't have light going to the north, and that would kind of box that area in,
Yeah,
if you will.
yeah.
And, you know, we can kind of make it how we want to kind of help all those factors.
I understand their concern. In the winter, when I have trees that line the whole back of my property, and in the winter, they're all bare, and my neighbors have extremely bright dusted on lights, and it shines right into my kitchen window, the big kitchen windows and stuff, right? So it can be very, very, especially in the winter, because the snow reflects, the light reflects off of the snow, and it makes the problem even worse than even in the summer. So it is a valid concern for people.
There isn't anyone real close to that, is there? The
No,
ne-
that's what I was
next
just saying.
No, but the new
closest-
lot, the new lot would be, the new lot one would be the only one really
Yeah,
affected. I mean, assuming the doors are along the long side.
Wells and that, right?
Yeah, I don't,
You know what I mean? There's woods in between.
yeah.
I guess I don't have a problem as long as, you know.
If there are no other questions, we would need a motion.
Can you orient them the other way to like let the natural woods
That's
stay
good.
there?
That's the question.
Natural woods.
Because
There's-
Which way are you suggesting?
So east-west more?
I guess just perpendicular to the way they are now. Rotate them 90 degrees.
We could. I think they did it with the slope of the existing land, just for drainage purposes. But, I mean, we can definitely look at, you know, a number of different ways to kind of lay it out. Buildings north and south generally work a little better, just because winter with snow, you get the sun, so it kind of melts in front of the doors a little better. But we certainly can, you know, if that's a concern, we certainly can take a look at that.
Another question that was brought up about driveway, like the access to it, if I understand right, the driveway would be on North Oak, right, on M? No.
No, it'd be on,
Most
Double
likely,
M.
it'll
No,
be
we
on
got-
double M.
It'll
We
be
got a
on
letter
double M.
from, we
Double
got a
M.
letter from the,
Okay,
I called the county, because we had to have access, there's no access to it. He said, Jerry, we won't have any trouble, as long as you take it on the east-west road, which is double M, right?
yes,
And as long as it's 600 feet away from M.
Yeah.
We want the access from 60, and then I'll meet with whoever buys it, and I'll give them the culvert side, and then I'll do them from the little grant one.
yeah, and I do have the letter that we had in P and Z, if anybody wants to see it, from the county.
it was just a question that was
Stressing
raised
that.
at that meeting.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure everybody understood.
Any concerns for law enforcement issues or?
So there will be gates and it will have cameras?
Correct.
Because that's a dark area at night. if somebody's gonna break into those units to get out on Double M and head for Stevensville, that's gonna be the way that they're gonna head out.
Do you not have it lighted? Most storage units have lights.
Yeah, but all.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a concern.
But they are a huge concern. There's, I
Yeah,
mean, they're
usually they have
constantly
lights
being
on them.
broken into.
Any that I've seen
Right.
have the lights on the storage
Yeah.
units.
Yep, so I'm just looking not to compromise the lighting and have it gated and the security cameras. Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion to do the rezone.
I'll make a motion to approve Z-2-2023, rezone lot 3, parcel 240-023-400 from agricultural to light industrial.
I'll second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Julie, did you say aye?
No, I did, I
Oh.
said aye, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, motion is carried. Then we will go to C, discussion and possible action on appointment of election inspectors for 2024 and 2025 term.
And, excuse me, the list was in the packet, and this is just something we do every 2 years. We appoint our election inspectors. Some of those names on there were submitted from the Republican Party, and I didn't get any from the Democratic Party.
So you're just needing a motion, Jane?
Yes.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the election inspectors listed for the January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2025.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
For those inspections, do you have to have 50-50 in the group?
You have to have, whoever won the last presidential, you have to have that many you have to have 7 election inspectors. Half of them have to be who won the last presidential election, which was Democratic, so you have to have those. And since I don't have any Democratic nominations, we use unaffiliated, which are all the other ones that weren't Republican. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yes, it's supposed to be, let's say everybody signed up and they were either Democrat or Republican, it would have to be even. But since we have unaffiliated, you match that with the.
The one you're missing, the one you're lacking.
Yes,
So this is all kosher and
yes,
balanced?
yes.
Thanks.
Sure.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. D, discussion and possible action on forgiving deferred special assessment for parcel 240-0420-00.
So this parcel is, the parcel was purchased by the DOT in 2017. Basically, it's cut off anyway with the bypass, so there would be no use for that parcel for the improvements that were put in at that time. There's no way for us to receive this money.
Where is it?
So, yeah, what are we talking about?
It's a, this parcel, I'll just show you. It's right off, it's north of the bypass.
It's like 223 bucks. You don't have to worry about that number there.
This one?
Yeah, if you want it. It's only 240, 240. Oh, no, it's yeah, 420, this one. My birthday.
So that one connected down. It's this 14 acres up there that's highlighted. It connected down to Main Street somewhere. It no longer is, and we're not gonna get our money from the DOT anyway. Yeah. So,
So why
explain how
were
this
these
situation-
special assessed?
Yeah.
they were special assessed in 1998 for a reconstruction, and they added in water and sewer along Main Street.
Okay.
Was this one of those things that just got lost in the time warp or what?
Nope, they were officially deferred until the homeowners want to hook up.
Mhm.
This is on Main Street?
Yep.
So they brought the infrastructure out there, and until they hook up, they don't have to pay for
Yeah.
the infrastructure.
That was the agreement. We're not the only community.
That's an interesting
Yeah.
agreement.
A lot of communities used to do that because what would happen is you'd have a bunch of people coming in and complaining, and then they'd get people to not complain by saying, well, we'll let you defer it so that their infrastructure passed, and,
Interesting setup.
So this is stuff that we put in on Main Street,
correct.
like here in town?
Yep.
Okay, and the bypass split this property? Is that-
Right. There must have been somehow access to Main Street at the time, to that property.
Okay,
My guess is it was probably a very tiny sliver on Main Street because they probably did a footage assessment. So basically, that's why.
They touched Main Street some way, somehow, and you got
Right,
hit.
so you had $273 worth of frontage on Main Street, which is no longer there anyway. So,
okay.
So glad we deferred $273.03.
So we have some utilities laid in the ground somewhere that are
right on Main
underneath the
Street.
bypass, or?
No. Right along GJ. So basically, the utilities that come in through here.
Mhm.
Used to connect somehow to that piece of property.
Right. But then you have a bunch of houses in here. So like these houses over here, all are currently on well and septic. And so until they have to go on to water and sewer.
Where on Main Street is this?
This
That's
is
Main, that's the
Kelly
bypass.
Way, well, this is the junkyard. This
Oh, okay, so
Otter
this is
Creek
out-
Dental,
Okay, so this is out towards,
Way out of town.
is it one out of town?
Yeah.
That's the part.
Greendale's right over
Okay,
here.
yeah, so we ran water and sewer out there.
Out to Main,
Years
along
ago.
Main Street.
Mhm.
At some point it touched it, but they never hooked up, and now can't even access it because the
Right.
bypass goes through it.
Correct.
So we have no means of collecting this because they're never gonna hook up.
And it's the DOT.
So, yeah, so we're looking at a property that's on the other side.
Other side of that bypass.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So we would need a motion
All these other-
to defer this.
Yeah. Baby Tom Baker.
All right.
I will make a motion to defer, or forgive the deferred special assessment for parcel 240-0420-00.
A second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll then go to E, discussion and possible action on forgiving deferred special assessment for parcel 240-0419-00.
So this one is gonna be right up here, which is the Weir's property, which no longer connects in. And it probably used to connect in through this area, but it no longer does. Same concept, same project.
So you're just looking for a motion?
This is like a cleanup effort because those were never, haven't connected to Main Street in many, many moons.
Probably not, right. Because they would have been disconnected since 2017 from Main Street.
Talking about this property.
No, this is, no, you're talking about the church, you're talking Grandview.
Okay.
Way, way east of us.
And not forgiving it does absolutely no good. So
Well, I mean, you
We
could
just-
leave it, but it's just,
it's just gonna sit out there and
it'll,
it sits on Jane's books.
right, and I don't know how we would ever be able to argue that we should be able to collect it. I mean,
So it sits on the deed for the property right now, though?
correct.
So if the DOT tried to sell it to somebody,
Well, the
DOT
DOT,
doesn't own this
so that
one.
when the DOT does things, they just take it. There's no, there's no,
yeah, they already.
there's no
they-
titles information, so they just take it and basically we had an assessment on it. There was no title work that was presented to us, given to us to
Here you
do.
go, it's ours now, thanks.
Right,
Do not pass docking fee, yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
right. So,
Do not
so your
collect-
other
do not
option,
pass.
you,
Do not collect $200.
I don't know if you have an option, but to me, it would sound like the only other option would be you would have to go after the homeowner who sold it potentially for that amount, and I don't even
You'll
know.
never get that.
And there's no way we're gonna hook up a utility to that.
Correct.
So, and that was the purpose of it. So I will make a motion to forgive deferred special assessment for 240-0419-00.
Second.
Roll call, Grace?
I,
Hi.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. F, discussion on deferred special assessments.
So we have two deferred special assessments. As you can see in your packet, there's like a listing. Those are the two deferred special assessments. One's on Main Street and the other is on Nye Street. The Nye Street ones are all properties outside the village, so basically anytime they would want to annex in, they would have to pay that portion. The ones on Main Street are set basically for when their water is, when they want to hook up to water and sewer.
The Nye ones, and forgive my, I don't understand all this, is the reason we even have an assessment for someone who's not part of Hortonville because of the zipper business on Nye or what?
Right. So basically, we brought in water and sewer,
To get to all of our places?
which they would have potentially had access to. So basically, you do,
But we did it out there because we have other properties that are,
right.
it's
So
the weirdest.
It probably
lot line
had
ever.
something to do with Brookwood subdivision going in.
Well, and I only ask that because like I know Jan Arndt sold his property.
Right.
He doesn't
and
own that property.
a lot of the-
Esther Clegg sold that
Right.
property, so.
We don't get notified when people are moving, and we can't, I don't know of a way, and maybe legal does, but.
I mean, are we even able to collect, for example, the one on Jan Arndt and Esther,
If
even
they
if
ever
they,
wanted
if,
to,
If they
if they
ever
wanted to
want.
annex in,
but they don't live there anymore, is that something that's passed on to the
it's on the
next?
property.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's not on the owner.
It's on the deed.
okay, I just wanna make sure it's there because
And it's not on the deed.
No?
it's on the title.
No, it's not. It's just
Yeah.
out there.
Hmm.
It's our job for whenever they want to
So
annex
those people
in.
have no idea.
Well, and from what I've heard,
I'm,
some of
and I
them are a little,
You understand why I'm bringing this up, because
it's
we've
so
had
long. They
numerous
think
issues.
the amount is more than what it is. I heard, so I was talking with a developer who's looking at land over there, one of the larger farms. And one of the owners of that farm believes that the village has an assessment on his property for $260,000. The assessment is for $26,000, but, so I think the numbers have inflated in some of these areas.
I caution this because we've had so many people about assessments in the last
Right.
year, and I get worried when we go to the person, let's say the person who bought Jan Arndt's property says, hey, I want water and sewer, and then we're like, well, hey, you owe us 10 grand, and they're gonna be like, what?
But they're
Well,
also outside of the municipality asking for water and sewer.
No, I get all that,
They
but
would have
like,
to annex it.
Yeah,
So
they're not important.
what I would
I
what I would
understand that.
propose for them, and this is something that I was thinking is, we might be better off to offer them an olive branch and say that we would relieve their special assessment if they annex it.
Where did these numbers come from to begin with?
The special assessment, I don't.
what, 20?
Yeah, so
I would
they
have to
put
pull the actual special assessment documents that had the calculations,
Yeah.
but that's where it's from, is the special assessment books. So,
So, but once we get, where does the county take over going out?
they don't have anything on TT.
They don't?
Hortonia takes over after Industrial Drive.
But I mean, the county put the road in though, right? Or does it?
Yeah,
So at some point, because I know we have, it looks like a zipper, but at some point, the county took over putting that in, right? So I'm assuming that we put utilities in.
That's the cost.
Is that the cost, just, it's assuming that's the cost for utilities, not the road itself?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
Okay.
I don't think you're, so the only amount that we've ever gotten somewhat recently was when the farm sold a chunk of land to the fire department. So we got, I think it was 26,000 or so of that amount, which reduced down that special assessment from 58 to about that amount.
So your thought is, if we offer to not hold this on the books, that they could potentially...
If we would have allowed them
assess
to
it?
annex in for free back then,
Yeah.
we would have already made our money.
Yeah, so that's,
So it's like, I don't see, I mean, maybe for some of the farms, but at the same time, you could also incentivize those farms to annex in, which would allow, it's easier for when if we're looking at someone wanting to retire maybe and they want to sell their land for development, that's one thing that we have to go through anyway, is that annexation process. It just adds it to our books, gets it away from Hortonia, allows us to kind of add it into a TID, where currently, if, let's say one of those farms sold and we created a TID, the TID would be pretty much just that farm, because it's surrounded by residential houses anyway. So, if we had both farms in that area, all annexed in, and then one of them wanted to sell, and we created a TID, we could add that other farm in potentially for the future if that other farm sold too, as a potential development.
Okay, so how do you perceive your proposed deal working out to do this?
I would basically just send a letter, say that, explaining that there's a outstanding special assessment, done in 1998, or if you ever wanted to annex into the village. I know basically some of these property owners are new and they probably don't know about it. Basically, I would give them the amount that's owed and just say the village would be willing to forgive this amount in the future if you guys wanted to, if the parcel wanted to annex it in now.
Oh, so you'd want them to annex in now?
Right.
That's, okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is what your...
Yeah, so if they annexed in now, we forgave them, and yeah, you'd be forgiving, you know, some of these parcels would be 14,000, 12,000.
Yeah, but it's money we may or may not get anyways if they never annex in.
Right, and then some of the, so the farms are the ones where you might actually collect your money from.
Yeah, later when they decide they're done.
Because their properties are actually somewhat worth the amount that's listed. When you're talking a normal house with a $14,000 expenditure to hook into our water and sewer, it might be more better for them, cost benefit, to just update their well and septic than to hook into water and sewer, where if their well goes out, it might be cheaper for them to annex them.
So you want to offer them, give them a one-time offer to annex in now, and then just leave the rest of them on the books?
See if it works.
Is that how that, okay.
Yeah, because there's like 5 people on Nye Street that don't own these houses anymore that you have listed.
Right. Right, and the owners probably have no idea that this is even there because of that.
Right.
Because there's no letter that comes to us because it's not our property, so there's no thing that we can put on that title search anyway.
If they did annex in, what kind of expense do they have to
Well,
absorb to do that?
I don't know if it's something we can pay for, but the amount is, I think it's a $500 fee for the application, and then there's a certain amount per acre. It's less than 1,000 in total, I think, for most of these parcels.
Okay.
And then
they would automatically become on the tax roll for Hortonville.
Right.
And I'm assuming, based on where all these are, they're going to remove from Hortonia. Right.
All the benefits.
We would have to pay for 20 5 years of
I'm sorry?
taxes. We'd have to pay for 20 5 years of taxes.
Okay. And then how do you deal with whether or not they do hook up to the water, the utilities?
At that point, if their well went out and they needed to get an updated well permit for a new well, we would deny it,
Okay.
and then they would have to hook up. Otherwise, you could offer hookup now, I mean, yeah,
What are the, is there any cost? What's the cost of them?
it's just our general hookup fee, for any new house. I don't know the cost off the top of my head.
Was it 1,200?
No, I can't accurately say right now, I'd have to look at.
I used to know, I can't remember.
Well, for a new house, it's 1,200 altogether.
Yeah.
That includes the building and the driveway and everything. So this would just be a general hookup fee, which I believe it's less than 200.
Is there a goal to have these properties be hooked up to water and sewer?
Yeah,
I think it's more about the annexation, isn't it?
yeah, it's
But you
about the
could-
annexation, not having a zipper,
I
basically.
think you could make that a condition of the forgiveness as well, and the annexation, that they hook up to the water and sewer if you're gonna forgive. I think you could do that, as part of that sort of package deal.
I just don't think any of these like single family houses are gonna ever want to really hook up unless you offer them something like this. Because it's not like they're gonna be able to sell their house for a development or something like that, like a farm would.
Okay, so their only incentive is to get rid of this? I mean, outside that, I mean, our tax rate's higher
rate's more.
than Hortonia.
Right.
And they could potentially have sewer and water, but do they have any?
I mean,
Do they
the
get
other
it?
benefits that they get is village resources.
Mm-hmm.
When they call someone for a building inspection, they get someone to come. When they call the police, they show up. Our police department shows up quickly. Depending, it's the services we offer, the rec program, they get discounts for, they get discounts for rentals in our parks.
Okay. I mean,
They call someone and basically we answer.
There's somebody there,
Because
there's the actual
how
building.
many times do we get called from Ellington and Hortonia's residents thinking they live here in Hortonville, and we say, nope, good luck, here's the number.
I mean, it seems reasonable to offer.
Right, I mean,
I don't have, the only issue that I would have with it is that I would ask that you notify Hortonia before you send letters out to their residents saying, hey, would you like to come and annex into Hortonville? Because otherwise, we don't need a relationship like we ended up with Greenville. I mean, just as a courtesy, just to let them know. I mean, some may not be happy about it, but at least, I know Dennis and Nancy, and I know Dennis is, if you feel slighted, that'll sour any sort of relationship.
yeah.
So I would highly
Maybe.
recommend that.
Just bring up that we have 150K worth of
Yeah.
deferred assessments that's
Yeah.
outstanding that we're trying to account for.
Right,
I mean, they'll understand. I mean, they won't necessarily agree, but I think they'll understand.
right. I mean, I don't have a problem doing that, but I think they know that, I mean, you'd have to,
I think this comes up all the time,
I mean,
right?
they're gonna know that we're gonna be looking at their parcels anyway
Yeah.
to annex it in the future, but yeah, it's something we could do.
Just as a courtesy, I think it would be a nice gesture on our part.
Now,
If
for
you
the
don't
one
want,
on Main-
if you're not comfortable doing it, I know both of them personally. I can talk to either one.
okay,
You just let me know and I'll
okay,
corner them.
Main Street,
Okay.
what do you guys wanna do with that one? Is there anything we can do? Because
What about-
basically, from my understanding, the board could demand that they pay the residents that are on Main Street.
For,
For the
This is a
utilities that are
deferred-
underneath the.
We have like an agreement or the resolution of the initial assessment?
I have it not on me.
Okay.
Because I know it's something, basically, I know Greenville went through the same thing because they had hundreds of thousands of dollars in outstanding ones that were deferred.
so is this a complete list of deferred ones right now
Yes.
on Main Street?
Yes,
So after we deferred these two for 1,900 and 300, it's 2,200, we've got, what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,600, 30, 40, 300, 4,500 bucks left
Yep,
in total? Because you got rid of 2 of them?
yep.
And are the rest of these houses on,
Players,
a well?
both players,
Yeah.
Tom Banker.
I don't know if these are still this, they should all be the same owners, actually. Because anytime they, that one I think is anytime the sale of property as well, they had to hook in.
It's 4,500 bucks.
Oh, so there's a clause in there that says if the, when the property is sold, they have to hook into the
Well,
utilities?
it's the utilities is deferred until they sell.
Okay.
So what are you looking for tonight? Just a head nod?
No, I guess I don't know what you, I mean, we could do nothing with this. We could have the attorney look at the documents to see what options we do have.
So
I
the
think we-
original,
I know what our options are.
it was deferred until sale?
Sale
They
or
would-
until
or
they
hook
hook
up.
up. That's what it
That's
says,
it.
deferred until used or sale of property. There's like 4,500 bucks left after you get rid of those 2 that we already took out.
I would say that we agreed with those people that it was deferred until it's sold or they decided they wanted to hook up. I mean, I don't see eventually they're all gonna get sold. I mean, they're not, they can't. Does sold, also,
I'd have to look.
if somebody dies and they inherit?
It depends on how it's
It
written.
transfers ownership?
Whether it goes through
Because sold and
probate.
transfer are
They're
different.
very different
So that's
things.
why I have to look at the resolution and any sort of deferred agreements. I haven't seen any of that, so I can't say without looking at that.
Okay.
But
So, but,
language there could matter.
yeah.
Well, our agenda doesn't allow any action, it just says discussion. So I mean, I think we just have maybe legal look into what our options are and
This is possible action.
where does it say on F?
I thought we're on E. Or no, it's F. You're on
Yeah,
F.
it's just
F, it's just discussion. So I mean,
Yeah,
So maybe we just need to go and have you look at the language of that one and see what we can do.
yeah,
But
I think so too.
yeah, but my thought is, my leaning is with this is that the board at the time made an agreement with all these people, and they still own the properties. So, I would be opposed to breaking the agreement that was already promised to them. I mean, eventually the properties will be sold. It's not, we're talking $4,500. Maybe it's a pain to keep it on the books, but
Not really.
but I mean, that's kind of in my opinion, that would be kind of a crappy deal if the board said, yeah, we're gonna do this is what we'll do for you, and let's agree to this until such time as this or this changes, and it doesn't change, and the next board comes in and says, no, give us your money.
No, but I think it is worth the time to look at, see what
Yeah.
it says, if it's
Mhm.
sale or transfer of ownership.
Yeah,
Not
definitely, I think
knowing.
it's worth that, but even if it.
I think it's worth knowing what somebody agreed to.
Yeah.
So basically look and bring it back, inform us.
Please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Move to G, discussion and possible action on GIS service contract with MSA.
So we've talked a little bit about the process of kind of updating our GIS and getting information. This is the next step in that process to really move forward with getting all our utility information updated and having MSA create some apps for us to help us in that updating, create zoning apps, and then help us with some training for our staff to use what they create. Do you have the ability to pull up the?
I was just looking.
Do the lead and copper one, the dashboard, I think. MSA has already helped us create an app for tracking our lead and copper service line inventory, which we are under obligation by the EPA by October of 2024 to send them a report showing which every service line in the village is made of, and if there's any lead or copper or anything like that. So when I started, we were tracking this kind of in a notebook and on a spreadsheet. So we had asked MSA to help us with this, and they developed an app that the guys have on their phone. So when they go in and change a meter out, they look, it's a drop-down menu, it's this large, it was changed this day, it's made out of copper, and as soon as they hit enter, it updates into the GIS database, and right now, our GIS, I'm not sure. I should have had a printout for you to see, but basically it updates in real time, and you can see right now, since they've been doing this and since we've been using it, we're about 60%, we're through 60% of the village. We have to get the rest of the village before October 2024. And then other nice thing about what they created for us is it's just an easy couple buttons, and all of our data then exports into the format that the DNR needs to send to the EPA. So that kind of thing, starting to use technology to track what we have in the village, what we're doing in the village, is what this contract will do for some of our other utilities. Another thing they started on, but was for our sanitary sewer, and tracking. They created an app so that we could update our manhole covers. So there's about 400 some manhole covers on our sanitary sewer lines. Using that app and going through the village, we found out that there was about 200 errors in the data that we had. So this is kind of something that we're doing to get caught up to what a lot of other communities have been doing for years, so that we have all the information that we need so that we can make informed decisions on when stuff was built, what we need to replace, what's actually in the ground, different things like that.
Efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have questions for Aaron?
You just need a motion for the GIS contract? Is it in a certain dollar amount?
For 29,000.
For 29,000. I'll make a motion to approve the GIS services contract with MSA in the amount of $29,000.
I'll second.
Roll call. Grace?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay. H, discussion and possible action.
We have it up if you wanted to.
Real quick, if you just want to show that dashboard.
Oh, I was gonna, the lead ser-
Dashboard, yeah.
lead service line. Might take a second.
So you can see this, we have 1,200 service lines, and we have about 600 some that we have checked. The ones that we have checked that we know are. The gray area are what we still need to go through and find out. And every time they go to a house and change out a meter, they're recording this data on their phone, and as soon as they hit enter, this database updates. So it's updated in real time. And once we get to 1,200, then there is an application that will take this data and put it directly into the format that the DNR uses to send to the EPA. So we got some work to do on it yet, but every community is required to have all that information by October 2024. So whether you're keeping track on the spreadsheet or in a notebook somewhere or doing it this way, we have to have that information. Luckily, right now we haven't found any lead. So.
Good. That's good. Okay, then we will.
Well, this is
Anything
another thing created for, this shows where our manholes are and information on each one of those manholes. By going through that inventory, we found out that we had incorrect information on almost half of them, or things that need to be adjusted. So we have some work to do to update our data, but we'll get there, and then we'll have good data to make informed decisions in the future.
So what do you mean by incorrect information?
Either the manhole was in the wrong location, or it was a different type of manhole cover than we had it listed as. just little things like
Or
that.
paved over.
Or paved over.
Nice. That's helpful.
So,
It's really covered now.
it said one was there, and then we couldn't find it, but brought out the metal detector, and, oh yeah, okay, there is one there.
Oh my gosh.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Hopefully no one's in there.
Okay, we will move to H, discussion and possible action on tree lighting event 2024.
So, this is something that Chris and I were starting to talk about a few weeks ago. Basically, the goal of trying to bring people into the village and to kind of support an event in order to do so. And we figured it would be a good idea to kind of tag on the hometown holiday and improve it. She came up with a tree lighting type thing that some other communities kind of do, and we can, basically the idea would be to put 20 trees or so in Alonzo Park so that we could potentially have a path down it with some electrical put down the side so that we could allow for people to purchase each year a tree to decorate, and then we do a general lighting ceremony at the hometown holiday event through a type of a parade. We're still kind of discussing how we want to necessarily detail-wise make that happen. I got us a $5,000 donation in order to help with that infrastructure. So basically the idea would be, the approval we would need from the village is whether to be able to use the spot in Alonzo Park for that planting of those trees and potentially staff time to help with developing this event.
So my first question on that, first of all, love the idea. We have to think about all the plans for Alonzo Park and where those trees are gonna go, and so we're not planting trees just to rip up.
Correct. So the idea is we have a spot near the front that is just basically grass in our plans right now that doesn't infringe on any of the other plans. So the idea would be to start in that area. Eventually, you know, if it got bigger and we needed more room, we would probably look at other parcels to potentially acquire if we wanted to. Otherwise, there's
Veterans Park.
right. I mean, there's other parks, or you could expand it down along where the plans for the Alonzo Park have a pathway, and you could just do it along that pathway then. So there's a few other options we kind of have, but the starting point, correct, is somewhere where there's no current plans on anything.
I mean, I like the idea. I think it just reminds me of a little small town event, right? Like every Hallmark movie you ever see has some sort of tree lighting event. But I just want to make sure we're not planting stuff just to rip it up.
No, yeah, and you know, eventually we probably will have to, if we wanted to keep it in the same spot, because eventually it's going to get, the trees are going to get very large, and
Oh, yeah.
you're probably not going to be able to decorate them when they're 40 feet tall.
Yes, you can. Don't you remember that big tree in
Well,
Miller Park? That was huge.
Limited people might be.
They
able to
decorated
do
with
it.
like a bucket truck
Yeah.
every year.
Right.
We decorated it.
The people that have bucket trucks would be able to. But eventually, you'd probably have to cut them down or sell them or.
We get 30 years out of them.
Right. I mean, it's not for a while.
No, I mean, again, I like the idea. I just don't, just the same plans we do with Alonzo Park for
Right.
everything else right now. I don't want to
Correct.
do something just to rip it up.
Yep, and that's why we did look at the plans and found the
you
spot
go.
that we would be able to make it work.
Palm trees.
So,
I think
It
it's a
could be
very
two.
good idea.
And it could be two locations, like Julie mentioned, use Veterans Park too.
Yeah, so
There
you
could be
find
more.
yeah, this is
I
a-
mean, if you needed more. Just a thought. Is there space there?
yeah, I mean, there, eventually, if you wanted to, you could do it in all of our parks. Along the, yeah, so I mean, if it takes off, but you gotta start small.
So what are you looking for? Just like to just say that
To approve staff time
Yeah.
and the use of the property for that use.
I mean, honestly, if something happens and it doesn't take off, it's trees.
It's trees with a
Yeah.
pathway that
Exactly.
that has
Required
electrical
planting.
boxes near it that we can light anyway ourselves. If it does die, we just have the public works guys decorate it, and we tie it in with the pathway that goes through Lonzo Park anyway. So,
I like the idea though, I mean, hopefully it kicks off, because I like the idea of community, businesses, whatever, families.
Yep.
Getting a tree.
I drive through Niagara, and they actually have trees all along the Menominee River.
Right.
And that's and those trees are sponsored by different businesses.
Right.
And I think even in, I can't think of the other municipality, but yeah, and it's pretty cool, because then they all decorated their own way, and then it's different lights, and
Right.
yeah.
Menasha does like, flower berms or whatever for the spring and the summer, and trees in the winter. It's neat, I like that.
Okay. So just a head nod is really what you're looking for.
We need a motion.
I'd rather have a motion that you guys are good with us devoting staff time, because it's gonna probably take Chris and I and Aaron some time to help with it. And
I'll make a motion to, for staff to explore a tree lighting annual event, starting in 2024.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion? Okay, nothing. We'll move to 11, report of village officials. A, clerk treasurer, Jane.
And my report was in the packet.
Any questions for Jane? Okay, we'll move to B, director of public works, Aaron.
My report was in the packet.
I have a question. What are your public works guys doing with that box by Quick Trip?
The lift station?
They're right there on the corner by the stop and go light.
Yeah, it kept setting a sensor that's saying that it wasn't working, and it was. So basically, we have Speedy Clean to come in and clean it up, so that the sensor shouldn't keep going off, because we've had people getting called in on off hours even, saying that there's a problem with that lift station.
Yeah,
So I think once we get it cleaned out, that should take care of
The
it.
sensors are like
Oh,
dirty,
good.
it's broken.
yeah, I noticed the guys there 2 different times now.
Yeah, it's been going, for the last couple
Yeah.
of weeks, it keeps going off, and I think it's just there's a bunch of debris and flushable wipes and stuff that have built up.
Okay.
Darn
Did you
flushable
get many
wipes.
calls about the copper?
That's what I was gonna ask,
Letters?
if you have any updates.
Actually, I only got one. I stunned. I thought we would get a lot. I got
Okay.
one, and it was more of a concern that the resident thought that the copper may be causing the film on his coffee, which I don't think it is, but I told him I'd look into it more.
The what?
Film on his coffee. When he pours a cup of coffee, he was wondering if that's what it was from or not.
Vinegar works good in coffee makers.
Might
Yeah,
have to clean the coffee maker.
Drop
Is it
the magnet
filtered?
in it. Any updates on resampling?
So basically, we did the resampling effort. Results came back, their copper was extremely low.
Okay.
So that it pretty much proves that it came from those households.
Okay.
And so now we have to use those sampling results to go through a workshop to kind of get out of this period with the DNR. And we have until March 2024 to complete the last steps. The first step was to put that public information out there, and that was due by the 1st of the month. So we sent the DNR a report showing everything that we did, that we met all of our requirements, and they accepted it and said that we were good
So
to
it's
go
like,
on that part.
it's like an audit for us, right? Where like, you have some that fail, but then you have to show them 6 other ones that don't fail to offset the one that does.
Okay,
So,
so.
We're well on our way to getting this in our rearview mirror.
Okay, so do the results still support your idea that there's a singular neighborhood that has elevated copper in their systems?
We didn't go and sample more neighborhoods.
Okay.
Basically, we sampled our wells,
Yeah.
And it showed that it wasn't coming from that.
Okay.
So you can kind of deduce that from some of our samples, where our high sample amounts were found in the past. There's
Sure.
kind of clusters of them.
So are we
Okay.
externally going to test the problem spots that we believe?
Basically what we did is-
Notify them that
Yeah,
We
that's
gave
we're
right.
a hot spot?
We gave them information on that they could have their water tested.
Okay.
That results at their location were high. And then we put some additional information on our website for anybody that wanted to get their water tested.
I just think we should notify those folks that had kind of that red zone area,
They
saying
were
that
notified.
beyond the, you know, the, everything that everyone got, general pop
Yep.
information. So at least we're doing our due diligence to say, hey, fix it.
Yeah, as long as we've made attempts to educate them as to what the issues might be and that they're more than likely affected by them in some way.
And
That-
they're
or-
responsible for
that-
getting
Yeah,
it resolved.
that they should take action. That's what I'm looking for.
Any other questions for Aaron? No?
No, no.
We'll move to C, Police Chief, Chris.
My report was sent out in an extra email. We had a lot of good things that happened since the last board meeting. We had the handoff for the police lights of Christmas. That was at the Packer Stadium. The Packers, there was 140 law enforcement officers that were there. They paid for the entire meal for all the officers. Jordan Love was there, signed autographs for each and every one of us and gave us a photo. He also did photo shoots with all of the law enforcement officers there. And then we were given a gift box, and then when we brought it back, there was $2,000 worth of gift cards in that box to distribute to those people in need for Christmas.
Cool.
So the $2,000, each department gets based off of how many events that they have attended throughout the year. So I was pretty much the only one. Officer Lore also attended one of the other events, but we did festival foods. We had a brat fry out there. We had Culver's. There's just kind of like a little war that goes on with each one of the departments for raising money and taking first place. So we were like second place for the festival food in the state of Wisconsin for raising money. Culver's, we were number 5, I want to say, in the state of Wisconsin. So we were right up there. We had that photo thing where people, your community members, could vote online. Anybody, the winning agency, which was Fox Crossing, they were given an additional $2,000 for being the number 1 voted. And it looks like now they're putting out a calendar, so the top 12 would be on that calendar, and we're in the top 12. So we would be in that calendar that people can purchase. That money that they purchase from these calendars goes back into here. We raised a total of $185,000 to give out to the communities.
That's awesome.
So it's just a great organization to be a part of. It's a lot of extra work in the summer, but it's well worth it when we can hand out these gift cards to. I handed out one on Saturday to a family that was needy for $250, and they were very, very grateful. They said it was just a generous donation. We also participated, and I have it in here that Sergeant Barr presented to the school board last Monday. So we assisted the school with lockdowns and relocation drills. I was pretty impressed with clearing out the high school. We had the entire high school cleared out, and all the students relocated in 12 minutes. Pretty impressive. So we were hooked up with one of the school officials. Each officer was. We went around from room to room, and we released each room, and then they exited the building. So we basically, the the school personnel would unlock the door, I would go in and announce myself as Shyackton, Hortonville. Been there many years. Hortonville Police Department, and you are able to relocate at this time. So they would relocate, they would exit the school, and then they would go. And then once the whole school was cleared, then they could come back to the Hortonville schools.
So did Officer Barr have to take special training to do this?
No,
How did he learn how to do this?
this is what we do.
Okay, so you just did it on your own as a department?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
So, the hometown holiday, that event was just, it was absolutely awesome. We had 500 and, I think it was 540 cookies, and we probably went through 500 cookies. We had a great turnout. We had 8 bikes that we raffled off, and 30 baskets were donated, by businesses and, just local people. Local and non-local people. A couple people were from Waiwega, some people were from Greenville, but most of them were from Hortonville. So it was a great event.
Good.
A lot of
Hopefully it grows every year.
Yep, a lot of good feedback from it. So
Yep.
I know that Stephanie had said we had more people in the first 10 minutes than we had the entire event last year.
Mhm.
They put a lot of time into it.
I think it was more advertised this year than it was last year too,
Big
so
time.
that helped. And I will say my kids are super excited to see the fire truck with Santa.
That was kind of a last minute call. Well, somebody had reached out to me during the event and asked about.
We missed
Hey.
we missed the parade. We used to like
Well,
the parade thing.
Yeah, we used to do that. And I remember when I lived in Hortonville, the kids look forward to the fire truck coming through, the fire department coming with Santa on it. And then that kind of just went away. I know that there was different people, like the Black Otter did the pickup truck with Santa, and then Wolf River Bank did the Santa float, but they did that because of COVID, and then COVID kind of went away, so they have Santa in the bank. He was there last year, he was there this year, so the float kind of stopped. And I had asked one of the fire department guys while we were doing the hometown holiday thing, hey, are you guys considering doing this again? You know, people are asking about it. So we had that hour between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock that Santa, we didn't know what to do with him. And one of the firefighters came over and he said, let's put Santa on the fire truck and he goes, I'm gonna call it, let's go. So we put Santa on the fire truck, we rode around. So next year we can kind of incorporate that in there. Maybe do like we do with the Easter Bunny tracker, so that they know where Santa is.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about the float thing. It was the little, you knew when it was gonna go by your house
Yep.
and all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was kind of last minute thing, but
I think it's a nice touch, just to throw it out
Yeah.
there. My kids think it's great, so.
yeah, we'll definitely incorporate it next year. Next year maybe we can get the library involved and have the library open at that time too. So. That's
Any
it.
questions for Chris? Okay, we'll move to D, Library Director, Ally.
I passed out my report on the tables before you arrived. It's a lengthy report this time. A lot has happened since I was last here. We are completing or in the process of creating a strategic plan for the library. It's not something that we've had for quite a while. So we are part of a cohort of small libraries throughout the state of Wisconsin, creating this strategic plan. So we are slated to start our data gathering coming up starting in January. So we'll have community survey, things like that we will be presenting. Quite a few achievements over the last month or so. We've gotten 3 grants or donations. We got an award through the Modern Woodmen of America, recognizing us in our promotion of early literacy. I will be a representative of the Wisconsin Small Libraries Unit as part of the Wisconsin Library Association, starting in 2024. Yeah, we also created, over the last month and a half, the library has worked really hard with engaging other local community groups to tie fleece blankets. So over the course of the time, we've done over 90 blankets, and they've all been distributed to the food pantry. They have over 150 families that visit them every week. Not just people, families. And to be able to give them something that they could really need during the winter is really awesome. So we didn't have enough for, one per family. That's only 150 blankets was quite a lot. But to be able to do over 90 was a pretty big feat. We're pretty happy with that. We have unique programs coming up too in the spring, so we're already planning February and beyond. Our new staff started. We're fully staffed, which is really awesome. And then I included our statistics and meetings and stuff as well. But our statistics keep increasing. The usage of our library is increasing, and we're very unique in that we have a small municipal population, but a very large service population because we are rural fringe. So we are outgrowing anything we've anticipated. So it's a good problem to have.
Mhm. Any questions for Ally? Okay, we will move to E, attorney, Michael.
I do not have a report.
Okay. Any questions for Michael? Okay, we'll go to F, administrator, Nathan.
Just kind of doing end of the year stuff right now, prepping for next year.
One question. Do you have any reports from the court on the things that were in arrears?
No. Typically it's quarterly, at least it's been. I can talk with Peter. I think Peter wanted to maybe do something. I can talk with him and have him, he had something, but I'll talk with him.
Yeah, it'd be nice to just keep us abreast
Your
of
end
what's
especially.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has, I think he's been doing something, but we typically have been doing it quarterly. Do you want it more often?
Have we gotten
When was
anything
the
from
election?
you?
He's been here for a while now.
He's got,
We did
yeah, but we've
have
done two
something?
reports so
I
far.
think so.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen two. It's a spreadsheet. It's
Right.
Yeah.
It's improving slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
I think, personally, for me, I think quarterly is fine until you get to the end of the year, and I think it'd be nice for the last quarter to maybe get it
okay.
more often,
Yeah,
just to see how the year end's gonna form up.
yeah.
That'd
I
be
know
nice.
he wanted to do it monthly, but I told him, I said.
Maybe a goal later. but-
Currently do it quarterly,
Yeah.
but I can have him do it, for the next one.
I mean, hopefully it's
Yeah.
getting to be less and less, right? So it should be, hopefully.
It'd be just nice to have something for the end of the year,
For the last meeting, yeah.
close to it.
Yeah, he'll do it.
Yeah. Perfect. Any questions for Nathan? Okay, we'll go to G, building permit report, and is in the packet. 12, communications and miscellaneous business. A is Black Otter Lake District news. Jane,
We are meeting next week.
when, was it on Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
Okay. B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District news. Jim?
How do we, get notified for the meeting time for the Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District?
Physically posted here.
Here?
They physically post them, they don't have it digitally.
Cause I get all the notifications every other
Right,
meeting.
so the district, it's not a part of the village as much as it is, because it's Hortonia as well, so they're kind of like their own separate entity, similar to like Black Otter Lake District, but, yeah, we just get a physical copy. Normally it'll think we post them. We post them on the wall, but we
Yeah.
don't post them online.
Could I attend?
Hmm?
Could I attend?
Yeah, any resident of Hortonville or Hortonville could attend it.
You'll be bored.
Yeah.
There's,
I just-
they don't cover much,
I
is
just
it?
wondered when they were.
Sure. What's
Okay,
the order?
then, oops,
So, no, go ahead.
you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll go to see Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News, there's none in the packet. D, Hortonville Civic Association, Jane,
We have nothing new.
and E, Senior Activities Committee, Pat?
November 20th, we had our birthday party and we assisted the library. We painted little rocks for their scavenger hunt. I think it's preschoolers. Am I right, Ellie? Or daycare?
4K.
4K coming for scavenger hunt. This past Monday, we had potluck. We had 2 new people come, brand new. We made greeting cards to send for holidays and birthdays. December 11th, which is Monday, we're having our second Monday coffee hour. Rosie Rome is coming to talk about her travels. December 18th, Monday evening, we're having our holiday dinner and lights tour. Some high school students are going to lead a sing-along. We're asking for donations for the food pantry. And we just received a $1,000 donation from the Schneider family through the Community Foundation. I know friends, for the library got one too, I saw. So we're real happy about that. They said we could use it for whatever's needed for the senior activities. And our next meeting is December 14th at noon.
Any questions for Pat? Okay, we'll go to 13, comments and suggestions from citizens present. And then 14, we will go into closed session. 15, I would need a motion to go into closed session. And then are we omitting?
Don't do the
Numbers?
first one, just the second one.
Okay, so just the second one.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session. State statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically, Apex Properties, multifamily development, and Grandview purchase of property by village and school district.
Second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, then we will go to 16, 5-minute recess to clear the meeting room. 19, any action on matters discussed in closed session? There is none. Number 20, I would need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We adjourned at 8:30.